and we're happy to have you here for our symposium. I'm Stephanie Slinski. I'm the Interim Executive Director at the Yuma Center of Excellence for Desert Agriculture, or YCEDA. We're a public-private partnership between the University of Arizona and the ag industry, the desert ag industry, and our mission is to understand the pressing challenges of desert agriculture and find ways to respond and provide usable results. This is done in partnership with private industry, including the ag industry, and also with academia and with government organizations. We have lots of projects in place: irrigation and salinity management, plant disease projects, soil health, ag tech, and we also have a small grant program that helps to support new research. So this is our second Desert Ag Research Symposium, and the theme this year is soil health. This symposium is part of our Desert Ag Soil Health Initiative, which is co-led by Dr. Joey Blankinship, who you'll hear from later on this morning. Dr. Blankinship from the University of Arizona's Department of Environmental Science and Dr. Ethan Orr from Cooperative Extension are my co-hosts for this event, and Ethan has a much longer title, so you can look at that in the bio. And I'd also like to acknowledge Sonnet Nelson, our Associate Director of Operations, who took all of our ideas for this symposium and made them what you see right now. One of the comments we received after our last symposium was that there was a desire for more networking time, and we tried to do that for this symposium. So my hope is that after you hear some of these presentations and discussions, those will inspire new ideas, and you'll have time to collaborate, to network during breaks, during lunch, and we also have a reception at the end of this event. You can use the QR code on the screen here to find the agenda, and you'll also find speaker bios. So we are going to save some time and not give long bios at the beginning of each talk, so you can find all that information there. And I'm not going to spend time talking to you about the importance of Yuma agriculture right now, its importance to national food security, how 90% of the leafy greens that are consumed between Thanksgiving and Easter come from this region, how desert agriculture has the highest crop per drop than any other region, how Yuma is one of the top producing U.S. counties that supply half of the nation's food supply, or how we have a real collaborative and innovative community. I'm going to leave that for our next speaker, who doesn't look like he's prepared to come up to speak, but here to give our opening remarks is someone I had the privilege of working with for nearly 5 years. Paul Brierley was raised working on his family's diversified farm in California. After earning a computer science degree, he returned to production agriculture in southeast Arizona. He worked with producers across Arizona as Farm Bureau's Director of Organization for 10 years. Then in 2014, he became our founding executive director at the Yuma Center of Excellence for Desert Agriculture. Paul built YCEDA into a reputable organization and initiated really important projects such as the irrigation efficiency and salinity management study. He helped bring broadband connectivity to Yuma. He helped create an award-winning Yuma water video, and he put together a staff that makes events like this possible. So last June, Paul was appointed director of the Arizona Department of Agriculture under Governor Katie Hobbs, and we're really happy to have Paul back here today to open our symposium.
All right, thank you. Good morning. What a treat to be back in Yuma. I didn't get to that side of the room, but no, it's great driving back here. I realized how much I miss being here, being up in Phoenix. So first I want to start by complimenting Stephanie and Joey and Sonnet for putting this on. One of my favorite things as director of Yuma Center of Excellence was taking something that was just an idea on the back of a napkin and turning it into reality in something like this. And they've done that with this Desert Ag Soil Health Initiative. And so it was kind of starting when I was here, and so to see it come into reality like this is really, really exciting. So most of you know, and you certainly all know now, that I was YCEDA's first executive director. You might not know that I grew up farming, and I've spent the last 30 years in various aspects of agriculture across the state. But I got to say, nine of the most impactful years were here in Yuma, and I can't thank you enough for that opportunity. I really got a bird's eye view of desert agriculture, in all its glory, and also all the challenges that it faces. I was heavily involved in addressing the urgent needs that desert ag production had. I forgot to bring up my props. Thanks. And one of the last things I did was to chair a commission at the U of A that put out this report. It was a presidential commission on the future of food and agriculture production in a drying climate, and focus on production, right? Everybody wanted to look at how do we solve climate change, how do we augment the water supply, things like that. But I kept the focus on production. How do we keep agriculture producing? And so their goal was how to bring the university's resources to that problem. And really that's what motivates me. I mean, the first question that came up with, that came out of that is ag a part of Arizona's water future? And my response was a wholehearted yes. We need to make sure that the answer isn't following land. The answer is to figure out how can agriculture continue to exist, continue to thrive, continue to produce, even if the future has less water. So in my new role as CEO of the Arizona Department of Agriculture, I see ag at the state and national levels, but really nothing compares to Yuma. You heard some of the stats that Stephanie just threw out there, and they're big, right? Year-round production. We've got produce, dates, citrus, hay, wheat, cotton, all that. We're in the top 0.1% of counties in the United States in ag production. 90% of Yuma's wintertime leafy greens come from here for all of North America. A couple thousand refrigerated semi-trucks a day leave here to go around the country. It's a $2 billion economic impact from veggies, $3 billion from Yuma Ag, and those are 2017 numbers. We all know what's happened to those numbers, so that report will get updated soon, and I think those numbers will be a lot bigger. Another key is that these are really high-value crops. The growers put up to $10,000 an acre into these crops, and so they may not like this comment, but it gives some room for investing in new technologies, new practices. But it's not just the ag production, it's also the close-knit community that's here. While a lot of these people are intense competitors in the marketplace, they work together by family, like family. In some cases, because they are family, but they work together really well. They know that there's big challenges out there that they need as an industry to address. This is the only place outside of Tucson that U of A has all three of their missions. They've got academic programs, so they do teaching, they do research, and they do outreach through cooperative extension. And of course, they have the Yuma Ag Center, the research farm, and then the Yuma Center of Excellence for Desert Agriculture that I was so proud to be a part of. There's just a lot of resources here, and industry has a long history of working with researchers. So this kind of conference symposium is so important and so productive too. But even with all those amazing things going for it, Yuma and Desert Ag faces significant challenges, right? Crop water use, the impacts of soil salinity, plant disease that needs to be mitigated, the use of ag tech and the broadband that underlies that, 100 other things that they face. And really, water availability right now is an existential threat, right? We see it, we hear it in the news, we live it as we try to grow crops. I can't count how many times I've been asked, how can ag become more water efficient and productive? That's my other prop. So we did, I think, 7 years of research here on irrigation and soil salinity, and this report's worth looking at that came out of that. A lot of work done by YCEDA, by U of A researchers, by USDA researchers, growers like Matt here, and others in the room, what we found was that Yuma Ag is too efficient when they irrigate. And I love saying too efficient because people kind of perk up, what do you mean too efficient? It's always better to be more efficient, right? But there aren't any easy ways to reduce water use here. They're already not using enough water to leach the salts, and that has obviously a huge impact on soil health. So we need solutions to that threat. Unfortunately, a lot of the solutions right now involve more water, right? And that's one thing we don't have is more water. Soil-borne diseases like Fusarium wilt, those threaten future productive use of Yuma's farmland. Yet, again, many of those solutions involve more water or more chemicals, neither of which are really palatable in today's environment. So what else is there? After obvious things like irrigation management, crop selection, new styles of production like controlled environment, soil health in its many forms seems to me to be the most promising avenue we have to increase productivity while reducing water use. And it was at the top of the Presidential Advisory Commission's recommendation list too. They suggest creating a Center for Soil Health and turning the Yuma Ag Center into an innovation hub. So you're going to hear more about that from Kim Patton later. But that's really exciting that's a large part of the basis of the recommendations of this report, which has the president of the university behind it. So I think you guys are on the right track, and you're going to get good support from the university. So today you're here to discuss soil health. I mean, what goes on in the soil is so important. We've barely scratched the surface of what's known about it, especially here in the desert, right? I know the growers, they get knocks on the door every day offering the latest and greatest thing for soil health. But it's complicated, right? You have contracts with shippers, you lease land rather than own it. Other farmers might even farm the land part of the year. You've got food safety concerns. How do you know what to do and what products to use? What works and what doesn't? What pencils out? So a lot of brain power and experience in this room today. You're going to hear from researchers and you're going to hear from growers. I think it's really important that you get both perspectives because both sides have brain power and experience. Yuma's an attractive place to do research, but it wasn't always that way. We, in my first year here, well, my second year here, we had an international symposium on Fusarium wilt of lettuce. And I was really excited to get the growers and the researchers together. And I thought this is a perfect opportunity for U of A's Plant Sciences Department to come and understand the problem and bring to bear what they had to offer. And I was really disappointed that nobody came from Tucson. None of the plant sciences people came from Tucson. And I went and talked to the department head afterwards, who was also registered and didn't come. And she said, well, Paul, you have to understand, Yuma's too far for me to expect my people to go to. I was really disappointed and put a lot of effort into getting them to understand the opportunities here, the needs of the growers, the opportunities to work with the growers, the opportunities for their research to have an impact and make a difference. And fast forward 5 years or whatever it was, and we held last year this first Desert Research Symposium, and we had like 75 researchers from Tucson come interested to get involved and work with the growers and make their research matter here. So that was really exciting. They did that because of the proven power of that public-private partnership, I believe, combining that brain power and experience from both sides. So guess what results bring? Results bring money, right? This is a unique time, certainly in my lifetime, where there's a lot of federal money flowing and a lot of it into agriculture, flowing into support of water conservation, flowing into climate-smart agriculture, things like that. The funders want to see these changes happen, and they know that kind of stuff happens in Yuma. And soil health plays a key role in what they're wanting to get done. So you're going to hear from a panel after lunch with some government agencies that talk about the importance of soil health and how they plan to support that. I think it's going to be a great day. I'm excited at the work that's gone into this already and the projects and successes that are going to happen in the future. So you are at the epicenter of Ag's future right now. You all play important roles. The things you discover that make sense on high-value crops here they can be applied around the world and truly make a difference in agriculture. So with that, I'll just say roll up your sleeves and go to work.
I would now like to introduce our morning keynote speaker, Dr. Joey Blankinship. Joey is an associate professor at the University of Arizona in the Department of Environmental Science. He addresses both desert soil health problems and solutions. He has been engaged in research in Yuma for several years now, and he has recently been working with YCEDA as a co-lead for our Desert Ag Soil Health Initiative. Dr. Blankinship will now deliver our morning keynote, the Desert Agriculture Soil Health Initiative and Outcomes Thus Far. Thanks, Joey.
Thank you, Stephanie, and we're really excited. Ethan, Stephanie, and I, that so many of you have showed up. We've filled out this room pretty well. There's one table over there that doesn't have anybody. Thank you for being here, and I'm really excited about telling you about this Desert Agriculture Soil Health Initiative, or DASHI. I'm actually going to start with a quote from the president of Ukraine, who says, "I really do not want my pictures in your offices, for the president is not an icon, an idol, or a portrait. Hang your kids' photos instead and look at them each time you are making a decision." And I totally understand if you don't have kids. I have 4-year-old twins, so I'm gonna start by showing a picture of them, and I think it goes to this is my decision to make this 3.5-hour drive, for one, but more so to really think about the future and making that decision to go from, we're going to talk a lot today about use-inspired research, right, and about sustaining food production. Sorry for you that grow corn and soybeans, but this isn't just corn and soybeans, right? We're growing real food here for humans. So what is DASHI? Well, I've already mentioned the Desert Agriculture Soil Health Initiative. One way of defining soil health is by the USDA, the continued capacity of a soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. So I have to admit, I didn't like the term at first because it seems to mean different things to different people, but that's really what this initiative is about, is defining what this means for desert ag producers. An exciting thing about soil health, and you'll hear more from researchers later on, is that it really rests at this center between physics, chemistry, and biology, and really extends beyond that as well. So it really builds on previous terms like soil quality and soil fertility, because it's more holistic than that. Who is DASHI? Well, this includes, the other leaders include Stephanie, who you've already met. I'm just going to say them by their first name. There are some doctors here as well, but we'll get beyond that. DeBonker, who you'll hear from later, extension specialist in soil health. Robert Masson, our industry champion, Mark Stover. And then someone who's not here but has really been vital is we have a professional facilitator from Ag Innovations based out of California to help lead this process. So this is the leadership team as it stands right now. There are current partners and funders include YCEDA, the Cooperative Extension, these and really in the middle row, and Diorigo on the bottom, these growers, nutrients. We have fertilizer companies, seed companies, and equipment companies. We're getting, this is something that is really craved by the industry from what we've seen so far. DASHI is as inclusive as possible. That's really from the start of this. We really did not want to leave any perspectives out. So the foundation is growers, the broader ag industry. You can think of fertilizer companies, these soil health products, some of which are snake oils, right? But like that, there's a whole industry now, broader industry related to soil health, including testing labs as well. And then researchers, so not only natural scientists, but also economists and social scientists. So we're really trying to bring all of these disciplines together, and with the ultimate goal of linking to government, foundations, philanthropy, food retailers, and others, really to try to think about the whole supply chain. So why the need for DASHI? Well, as has already been mentioned, really, I want to ask, I guess, reframe that as what is at stake if we don't improve both the assessment, you can think of soil health as both, there's an assessment aspect and a management. So what do we do about it? Just like if you were to go to the doctor and say, wow, your cholesterol is off the charts, bye. No, it's ideally to have something that actually to recommend how do you fix the problem once you find out that you're unhealthy. So as already mentioned, I'm going to go higher than 90, and I'll say 95% of the fresh vegetables in North America between November and March. Therefore, human nutrition, health depend on desert agriculture. On an annual basis, again, as already been mentioned, assuming there is water, these are the most productive agricultural systems in the world because you can be growing year-round. And at a broader scale, conflicts in the world, wars, are often related to desert food security. For example, think about Northern Africa or the Middle East. So there's really a need to, we're starting here in Yuma, but really thinking broader about the world and food production in these arid regions. So why is the current state of soil health science failing desert ag production and sustainability? Here's a precipitation map of the US. Obviously, we are here in the hottest, driest agricultural region in the US. This is where soil health assessment has mainly been developed. The northern one being the Cornell University, the southern one being the Soil Health Institute, who you'll hear from later, and they are they realize that, yeah, they're developing these assessments in a wetter part of the country. And this is where I would argue that most soil health management has mainly been developed in corn and soybeans. So I've been to a soil health conference before that should have just been called a cover crop conference. And I think we realize that in these areas that you can be growing year-round, it's often tough to economically to fit in a cover crop. Therefore, in general, soil health science is currently failing to address the unique soils, environment, and management challenges faced by desert agriculture, and that's really where we come in. So the mission of DASHI is to sustain desert ag for the next 100 plus years, and I mean that, really to think long-term. Soil health has a long-term component. It's not necessarily responding to an immediate emergency like E. coli, for example, but it's more thinking longer term. It's about sustaining human nutrition and wellness and really feeding the world to reduce conflicts despite climate change. So we view Yuma as a canary in the coal mine, so to speak. As the world becomes hotter and drier, we can find solutions here to be ready for that. How and when is DASHI? We're beginning by improving the understanding of how to uniquely assess and manage soil health in desert ag. We've already started the process, and I'll report from our grower workshop that was in this room exactly 2 months ago. It was on November 9th, to identify and integrate desert ag growers' understanding of soil health. Rather than come from the ivory tower and say, this is what soil health is, we tried to start with growers. And I think we accomplished that and really tried to integrate their perspectives from the beginning. We wanted to build and align teams and are in the process of building teams and partnerships across academia, so among researchers and industry and government, and accelerating outreach to increase awareness and funding for desert ag soil health. Our core values, you can tell I've been reading strategic planning books, but this is really key to begin with. What's going to get people bought into this, right? Is that we need teamwork and cooperation across all of these different entities. We need to seek out people that work well in teams. I've already mentioned to be as inclusive as possible. Trust is key between growers and researchers, and to know that we're all in this for the same, really the same reason. Truth is of utmost importance, right? We need science-based decision making, not just what somebody says or what they heard. We need to make sure that this is science-based. I'm going to be moderating a session after our next panel with researchers that are focusing on use-inspired research. I'll define that more clearly later, but this is really about research that benefits society, with foreseeable benefits to society. We need to buy into that. It's great to create knowledge, but it needs to be useful. We would not get buy-in, literally, from the industry if this does not lead to financial growth and security. That's one of our goals for growers, right, is to be able to show how investing in soil health actually creates a return on investment. And something that's come up with growers is often they say have research done on their land and they don't hear back at a reasonable amount of time. So we need rapid communication. We need people that are willing to engage with growers and stakeholders and actually communicate back and iterate. It's not just about communicating in a scientific publication in a journal that other scientists read and then throw in the trash or whatever. Like, it's got to actually be communicated to the stakeholders. And then finally, there needs to be a level of agility and responsiveness to this, to all of these issues that come up over time. So I think about this initiative in terms of short-term, mid-term, and longer-term goals. So you can see how there's going to be really, I'm not thinking about this as one project, but really multiple layers that will take decades. We began, and I'll report back in here in a few minutes on the results of a grower workshop, again, that we had in November to align on the definition of soil health, the key threats and obstacles, and key knowledge gaps. This is what we are right now, the Desert Ag Research Symposium on Soil Health, to improve communication and understanding, and we're going to have, you'll hear from governmental leaders, really to think about the full context of this issue. In March, we're going to wrangle up, it's like herding cats sometimes with researchers in academia, but we're going to get a lot of researchers in the same room, not just from the U of A, soil health experts, and have a workshop in Tucson. It looks like we'll be there instead of Yuma, on strategic planning and really team building. Oftentimes in academia, you get together for a few months to work on a grant proposal, and then everybody goes off in a separate direction. We're really trying to create teams that will be lasting. And then I will be going to Washington, D.C. and the East Coast, probably make a trip down to North Carolina for the Soil Health Institute, to meet with program managers of major funding agencies, the Soil Health Institute, United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, and policymakers, really to act as an ambassador for soil health here in the desert. To oftentimes, even in the farm bills, they forget about us here in Arizona and in desert regions in general. One of the major outputs of this initiative is a strategic plan. That's sort of the finish line for this, to have a concrete strategic plan document. And I'll talk about that here in a second. This will be publicly available and will really provide a roadmap for all of these parties I mentioned. And then next summer, really the idea, or this upcoming summer, I want to fill in the gaps with different industry partnerships, including soil testing labs, and really try to bring in the rest of the industry into this process. It's going to be going on this entire time, but I think that will be a great chance to, after we have the strategic plan, to see where we can plug in different industry partnerships. So if you're not aware of what a strategic plan is, I'm reading all of these books right now. I'm trying to catch up on my homework here. But really the goal is to have major strategic areas, but not too many. If a strategic plan has too many strategic areas, nothing gets done because you end up with hundreds of action items at the end. Whereas here we want to boil these down. For example, salt management might be a strategic area. And then within each of those strategic areas, you have, say, 3 strategies. And then for each of those strategies, you have, say, 3 action steps. So the goal here is to have this laid out in a very clear hierarchy, have teams associated with each of these strategic areas as well, so that we can hopefully get big grants funded and just build momentum in a very methodical or strategic way. In the sort of midterm goals are to, just to kind of throw out some examples, this sort of $5 million, $10 million level, hey, more if we can get it, right? A large grant to test soil health assessment and augmentation. You can think of augmentation just as ways of enhancing or improving soil health. To test these strategies, to gain knowledge is really the goal of this sort of 5-year plan. There's a lot of, and I'll show you some of these knowledge gaps, there's a lot of knowledge gaps that we need to fill in, including what is the return on investment for improving soil health. At least 3 other grants that can support this. For example, one of the major areas that's been identified by growers is we need to screen soil microbial inoculant products. You'll hear a bit about this afternoon, about these various products, which ones are more likely to work or not. But that's really something that growers are being really bombarded by with these new companies and new products that say, you know, it's like an infomercial, right? It'll do this and this and this, but wait, there's more. And you'll hear more later this afternoon about the Center for Desert Soil Health, that's been recommended by a UA Presidential Advisory Commission that really could help. There's a university level investment, and I'll save that for the experts that can talk more clearly about that. Then there's a need to build philanthropy and foundation mechanisms. So we're working with folks like Alex Strong here, who I saw just give a little smile. Yeah, that we really need to build these funding mechanisms and really build in foundations. And synergizing with commercial soil testing labs, some of which are here today, to measure the right things that need to be measured in desert soils, because we have unique soils here. To wrap things up with a plan, thinking longer term, say 10 to 20 years into the future, we have the opportunity to get a $100 million foundation grant, or hopefully sooner, right? We don't need to wait 10 years, but we do need to gain that knowledge first that we can then implement at a larger global scale. This will include projects with international collaborators. So this, I think, is when we can kind of step out and show UMA as the world leader, or at least this maybe dropping the Y from YCEDA and just have this be the center of excellence for desert agriculture globally, to really act as a premier global hub for desert ag research that can really be spread to other regions around the world. So I'm going to end with really results, data. It's just going to be bulleted points that we collected during this, and you can see how we didn't fill out this room nearly as much as we are right now, but this was in the same room 2 months ago, where it was a true workshop. It wasn't just a bunch of people talking at growers. We actually got together and in subgroups and tried to solicit as many of the perspectives as possible. And this also included, by Amy Ryan, our facilitator, pre-workshop interviews that we were able to sort of have more one-on-one interviews in advance. So our first question to growers was, what does soil health mean to you? And these are quotes, because I don't want to paraphrase. One of the most insightful was that soil health is an invitation to look holistically. And thinking just beyond just nutrients in isolation, or just salts, or just pathogens, but thinking broadly about the system. Soil health supports the growth of healthy crops now and 100 years from now. So that's part of the reason that I'm viewing the mission of this initiative is to sustain crops 100 years from now. In the desert, healthy soil is about salinity control and keeping salts at a manageable level. Salts, literally and figuratively, rose to the top of this issue. Just like in humans, a healthy soil doesn't have disease. It's a good balance of water retention and water drainage capacity. So you need to be able to hold on to the water after irrigation, but not too much, right? It needs to be able to drain. It's rich in organic matter, or at least has some organic matter, right? And has nutrients that are in usable forms to plants. It has a well-balanced soil structure. So this is the physical component of soil health, like aggregation for you soil nerds out there. That it's really about, if you were going to the doctor and you had a broken bone, let's fix that before we worry about anything else. And a diverse microbiology, which you'll hear from experts later on, that is, to have resiliency among the different functions in the microbiome, and that, as we're realizing the importance of our own, say, gut microbiome for our health, what is the relationship? And it's really a black box in a lot of ways. Next, we ask growers, what are the major obstacles or barriers preventing improvement of desert ag soil health? And I'm showing you a long list here, but there were probably 3 times as many answers, and these are the ones that were most common. So money, of course, as was mentioned earlier, you need to have, is it viable to have money to invest in the practices that improve soil health? Another barrier is managing salts. That always, again, it was something that is going to end up being a major strategic area for this initiative. Unsure how to use compost, right? You hear about organic agriculture now. Everybody should use compost. However, there's the cost associated with that. It's a fact at this point there is not enough compost out there for everyone to be using compost, so there's a supply issue. And one of the biggest things that you'll hear about in the panel right after this is about food safety concerns as well. What do you do when you're unable to use animal-based manures? And there are some buyers, right, that won't even allow animal-based manures because of the threat of E. coli. So managing food safety and soil health is really a key theme that popped out. There's an overwhelming number of available products, for example, microbial inoculants, and how do we differentiate effective products from snake oil? There's unclear economics and effectiveness of cover crops. Which practices are compatible with required tillage? There's unknown impacts of, if you didn't know that, at least with overhead irrigation, there's a sterilization step now required. What are the effects of that on soil health? Disease prevalence, especially Fusarium wilt of lettuce. There's no incentive to improve soil health on leased land, or at least little incentive. It's like if you're renting your house, how much are you going to invest in improving your house when you don't own it? And then finally, there's no standard. This is really, I think, fundamental. There's no standard for quantifying soil health. So how do you know that you've even improved soil health? So that's really what we're working on here. So hopefully this shows you we have plenty to work on. There's key knowledge gaps, and some of these are related to what I just mentioned. We ask growers, what are key knowledge gaps in desert ag soil health that need to be addressed? So these include how to improve desert ag standards and assessment. How do you adjust practices for different soil types or different properties? You can think of these as different patients in a way. How do you treat their health? Cost-benefit analysis of soil health products. What are products or practices that leach salts besides adding more water? Because that could be a limiting factor if when water becomes more limiting. How to remediate soils during the death season, right? The summer when it's extremely hot. How do you maintain soil health and biodiversity even during those times? What can be done to address Fusarium wilt disease? What makes a good compost or a quality compost? How to reduce irrigation but not affect nutrient availability? What are the effects of fallowing on soil biology? What are the residual effects of irrigation sanitizers? And do organic practices actually produce better soil health? There's an assumption there, but it's not really known whether you actually have a healthy soil with organic practices. So to wrap things up in the final 2 slides, we asked the growers, what guidance do you have for researchers when they design or implement projects? They said to look for practical and economical solutions rather than just more knowledge. So this is about use-inspired science, right? That it needs to be usable. Highlight the economics of soil health. This is really key. The healthier a soil is, the fewer inputs required, and therefore the better economic benefit. So if somebody asks you why improve soil health, it's because you won't have to add as much fertilizer. You might not have to add as much water. It should decrease maybe fewer passes through the field. You're going to save on fuel. So that's really key. Clarify the problem by defining exactly what needs to change. Try to clearly communicate what is known and not known about soil health. And focus on what growers need to do or know to maintain or increase crop yields. Finally, my last slide, key takeaways from the grower workshop, and I'm going to end with direct quotes. There is more soil health research in Arizona than I realized. That was good as a researcher to know. That we have something to start with. We have, where'd you go, DeBonker? Oh, you're over there. Hi, DeBonker. We're really trying to generate data and have a place to start. We're not starting from scratch. Soil health will be a process that will take time and several different strategies to achieve. So there is a time component, and growers realize that and have a deeper understanding of what that means. And measuring soil health baselines is going to be a long process. So that's where a lot of where we need to start while we're working on solutions. We also need to figure out these baselines. And finally, they were happy to see the collaboration between all the different parties. So I think we have a really good start. So I think I have a few minutes for questions. Thank you very much for your attention. Paul.
Joy, I'm curious what kind of researchers at the university, at main campus, you're finding interested in being a part of this?
Some are here today. And I'm going to digress a bit to say, what got me interested in this is sort of a basic science researcher. And there was something that it requires getting the bug, right? I know you and Stephanie were bugging me for a while, literally, right? But there was something that clicked eventually, that realizing the importance of this. And I think so far we have folks from environmental science, plant sciences. Who else am I missing? We have hydrology. I'd say that it's people that are willing to step out of that are willing to engage. And these aren't necessarily researchers that are from cooperative extension. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But it's really these people that see the need and want to be involved with this process. So it's evolving. I think that part of what I'm realizing as sort of the ramrod here, trying to get things moving forward, is that it is creating that vision. That's why I'm also thinking about the values and the core values and so forth, is that they need to buy into the vision, for sure. One last question. Yes, thank you. She's got to get the cane out for me.
Hey, very quick question. What's your vision on the AI and some of the sensing technologies application into this area?
Great question. I'll keep that quick and just saying there's a lot of potential. You will hear from some experts later on. I think with this broadband going in, unfortunately Mark Smith was unable to make it, really the champion for that, and Paul as well, right, is that we're going to have that capability. So I clearly think, there's a lot of potential there to build in this sensing. That's going to be key.